My name is Helen Rucker. I've been in the Monterey area for the last 46 years. Came here as an Army wife. When I came from Berkeley, I lived in the Bay Area. Came to California from Louisiana to go to school at UC Berkeley, and found out I really didn't want a PhD in library science as I thought when I originally came here. All I wanted to do was work with young people, give them the love for reading that I always had, and to be a librarian, really in middle schools and in elementary schools. When I married my husband, who is also from Louisiana, but who I didn't really know in Louisiana, I met him out here, I came here with lifetime teaching credentials because I had a master's degree when I came to California, and I went down to Pacific Street to get a job teaching. And I was told, we don't have any jobs for you. And I said, but there is an opening for a librarian. Why don't you have a job that I can apply for? Well, we don't have a job for you. So I decided, well, I better walk down Broadway in Seaside and find out where the local NAACP is and see if I can get somebody to get me an interview down at 700 Pacific Street. And I did just that, found out that the president of the local NAACP was a white man by the name of Cecil Bendel. And of course, Cecil called Dr. Black, who was then president of the board, and Dr. Black called the district office and told him, you will interview her. And I did get a job. And I taught here for about 25 years. I retired, I think, in 1988 when my husband got sick. And my love for being with the children and trying to teach them how to read and trying to teach them the importance of being good readers, that was just basic for everything else they did educationally. It's sort of like the people did me in Louisiana, because I came up without a mother. My father was my sole parent who provided for me. But the village, everybody in the town was my mother. I felt, you know, the old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that's true, and I felt that I had so many mothers. They taught me how to sew, how to cook, and you know, these things are important to girls who aren't living at home with their mothers. So when I came here to Monterey, I decided that if I'm going to live here, then that's the kind of participant I want to be in my community. So for many years at the old King Junior High it was then, I started off at the old Fremont Junior High, and then I went to the King Junior High. My husband and I, even when he was in the service, opened the library at night, because we had a lot of people in the military who had these large families that I never imagined. How could they all get around the table and have a place to study? And how could the parents really help all those children? So the important thing was open up that library at night. We had the books, we had paper and pencil and crayons and everything that they needed to study. And we had people to help. There was one point when practically all of the employees of AT&T who had one of their main buildings here in Monterey were my tutors who came to help the children to do their homework at night. And we did this probably for 4 nights a week for many, many years. And it was kind of my introduction to the community. Being military meant being in a military town, and there are all these particular problems that military kids have, some whose parents left and sometimes left them here. So I have to tell you, there was a lot of racial prejudice when I first came here. There were people who couldn't buy a house in a certain section, even of Seaside, up in the Art Terrace area and the Kimball area of Seaside. We didn't have very much money. My husband was an NCO, so we lived where we could. I think our first house cost $10,500. But anyway, even after we came back from Germany, we decided we would build a bigger house. And at that point, I was in my 30s and had difficulty conceiving, so I decided we're going to adopt a baby. And so we adopted a little boy from the San Francisco area and raised him here. He has been he was a marvelous student in school. I have to tell you, he did not go to public school, even though I was a teacher in the public school. And the superintendent called me down and said, you know, we don't like you doing this. You're a teacher in the system. I said, but if I heard some of the teachers doing to my kid what I heard teachers doing to kids here, I'd be doing a tap dance on your desk every Monday morning. So you may as well let me spend my money and send him to Catholic school, which is where I want him to go. So he was in the second class of boys that Santa Catalina took, because I interviewed every preschool on the Monterey Peninsula, but I like that old-fashioned, learn how to sit in your seat philosophy that their preschool had. He stayed there. He stayed there through 7th grade, and because the majority of his friends were going to Stevenson, he went to Stevenson because this is what he wanted. He played tennis and he played golf, and they had good tennis and golf and football and basketball and all the kinds of sports that kids like. But he liked photography. In fact, he was a photographer for the student newspaper, and he ran the radio station while he was there at Stevenson. And many of the young people who he met at both Catalina and Stevenson are still his friends. He's still in California. He lives in San Francisco, and I'm very proud of him because at this point he is a member of the Southern Poverty Law Center in Alabama. And he has a blog called Color of Change, which is a takeoff on MoveOn.org. And because I think my civil rights involvement, I've been a member of the NAACP, I've worked in public service trying to get people to register to vote all the years that I've been here. And right now I do have a little nonprofit. Well, we don't even have nonprofit status. We're just a group of people who took money out of our pockets, got a business, and when Mr. Obama was running for office, we had that office open. We registered people to vote, got people interested in the political process and in supporting this democracy, including interested in our local issues, to know what to vote for, provide education, political information for people, let them make up their own minds, but get them interested in involving in the political process. And that's a lot of what I've been doing since I retired from teaching. I also ran for the city council and was on the city council of Seaside for 6 years. 4 of those years I was mayor pro tem, with Don Jordan was mayor. 6 years ago, I ran for the school board, mainly because I couldn't interest anybody else to do it. I kept trying to find people, and they were disappointment. They wouldn't come to the meetings. They wouldn't read the issues. They wouldn't come and meet with me and have discussions. I couldn't get in, so I ran. Seaside has changed. Seaside is different. The Monterey Peninsula is even different from when I first came here. But some of the same old problems still haunt us. We have the haves and the have-nots, as they are in any area. But when Fort Ord closed, the diversity just changed, because the federal government was the one place where blacks, mostly, could get good jobs that put them into the middle class sector. The civil service, as well as the armed forces, were the instruments that brought a lot of black people to the Monterey Peninsula, and we had a thriving black middle class. When Fort Ord closed, so went those jobs, so went a lot of the retired military, which were an integral part of the city after they retired. Bennett stayed here. but many left looking for medical after the hospital closed. So we sort of lost a lot of our middle class, although we still have a vibrant black middle class in Seaside. We have practically all of the sororities and fraternities from the black universities are still here, and they're partners with the city in many of the activities that go on in the city. We also have many social organizations that are being run by black middle class people who are still here. But right now, we're less than 10% of the population. So in terms of having the political influence we used to have, it isn't here. But we do have quite a partnership with the Hispanics who have started to come in to the city of Seaside in great numbers. Our schools, for example, we have 2 or 3 schools that are over 75% Hispanic. We have found it a little bit difficult to get the newcomers to become the leaders of their community and to participate the way the blacks did when they came here. And mainly it's because of their educational level. Many of them are not citizens. Many of them are so busy trying to make a living for themselves and their families that they don't have the time to give the kind of attention to working for the community as those of us from other minority groups, like not only the blacks, but the Asians who came here, the Filipinos who came here, and all of these people who came here. We had vibrant middle class, but these people were already educated when they came here, so they were ready to go into working within the community. But it's a different story with the Hispanics who have come, and it'll take a little while. Their children, this next generation will be an educated generation who we can see participating in civic affairs and everything, and to take our place. Because our children as a whole, none of our children live here. All of us educated our children. Like I said, my child went to Stanford. He's well educated, has good skills and everything, but there are no jobs for him here. So he'll never come back to live in the city of Seaside. I'm trying my best to remain in my home and to continue to do everything I can in the community. But I'll be 81 years old when I get off the school board, and somewhere we're going to have to draw the line, somewhere. I've given a lot of thought to this, and like I said, there are a lot of people in the community who I've tried to make sure that there are people who take my place when I'm no longer here, like running for the school board when I'm 81 years old. But also, I recently endowed a scholarship at CSUMB in my husband's name, because my husband got out of the Army with a 6th grade education, went to MPC, got an AA, went to San Jose State, got a bachelor's, and his master's degree. He was a teacher at Seaside High School, and he was a counselor and a ROP counselor. He was the one who found jobs for the young people who were graduating from Seaside High School. So he was very much into education because he had a 6th grade education when he went into the Army. He never made beyond an E7 in the Army, but he was a brilliant person. And I'm bragging, but I know, but he did so well in academics after he left the Army that it didn't just come from out of the blue. He had this brilliance all along. So, and he was a part of a retired group of service people who, when CSUMB was established, this group of people established the Fort Ord Alumni Association to make sure that the Army part of that land out there was forever remembered as the forerunner of CSUMB. So I gave this endowment to CSUMB, and I get to choose a young person to give a scholarship to every year, and I always look for somebody who has some affiliation with the armed forces, grandfather, somebody was in the Army, some branch of the services, to try to help them along in their studies. So I try my best to find young people who I can mentor, who can go ahead and be that part of the community that will feel about Seaside and the Monterey Peninsula the way I did, and that they will try to make sure that those coming under them will have a chance just like I had a chance.